All right, let's get into it. Today, we're talking about one of the most ambitious and, yeah, one of the most controversial figures of our time, Elon Musk. I mean, how do you even start to wrap your head around a personality that extreme?
Maybe the best place to start is just to take the man at his word. This line from his SNL monologue, it's not really just a joke. It's kind of the whole question we're digging into today. What on earth creates a person so driven, so willing to risk everything, and, let's be honest, so often, so difficult?
Musk definitely fits that mold, right? The classic disruptive visionary. Kind of like Steve Jobs. He just seems to be operating on a totally different frequency than the rest of us. But to really get him, we have to go way deeper than just calling him a genius.
So where does a drive like that even come from? Is it something you're just born with, or is it something that's made?
Well, the whole idea here is this. To understand the man who's literally building rockets to go to Mars, you have to first understand the kid who had to survive an absolutely brutal childhood back in South Africa. His character wasn't just formed, it was forged.
And to say his childhood was tough is a massive, massive understatement. It was more like a trial by fire, just filled with both physical and really intense psychological pain. Take this, for example. When he was 12, he got sent to this survival camp called Veldskole, and it was pretty much exactly what he called it, a real-life Lord of the Flies. Kids got barely any food or water and were basically encouraged to fight each other for whatever was left. His brother even said that at this place, bullying was seen as a good thing. I mean, kids sometimes died there. And the violence wasn't just at some camp. At school, a bullying incident got horrific. He was pushed down a flight of concrete stairs, kicked in the head over and over, and beaten by a group of boys until his face was just a swollen meatball. It was so bad, he was in the hospital for a week and actually needed surgery years and years later to fix the damage. But the physical pain, that was nothing compared to what happened next. When he got home from the hospital, his own father, Errol, took the bully's side. For an entire hour, he just stood over Elon, screaming at him, calling him stupid, and telling him he deserved it.
And that wasn't just a one-off thing. Elon said his dad had this sort of dual personality. He could be kind 1 minute, and then in an instant, he'd flip into what Elon called mental torture. He'd go on these tirades for hours, just telling Elon he was worthless and would never amount to anything.
Grimes, the mother of 3 of his kids, really nailed it with this quote. And Musk himself agrees with her. He said, "Adversity shaped me. My pain threshold became very high." So this is the key, right? The experience didn't just scar him, it armed him. It gave him an almost inhuman tolerance for pain and suffering. And that incredible pain threshold, well, that became his superpower when he landed in the cutthroat world of Silicon Valley. He wasn't just ready for a fight, you could say he'd been training for it his whole life. The guy just hit the ground running. He starts Zip2, sells it for a small fortune, and then, instead of cashing out, he rolls his entire $22 million share into his next big idea, an online bank called X.com. And that put him on a direct collision course with another hot startup. His biggest rival was a company called Confinity, co-founded by Peter Thiel, and their killer app was this simple little payment system called PayPal. Both companies were just hemorrhaging cash to get new users. Musk called it a battle to see who would run out of money last. And if you want a perfect picture of Musk's tolerance for risk, get this. He's on his way to a meeting with his rival, Peter Thiel, to talk about merging their companies. So what does he do? He decides to show off his brand new, uninsured, $1 million McLaren F1 supercar. He floors it, loses control, the car goes flying, hits an embankment, and is just totaled. And Musk? He's laughing. So X.com and PayPal do end up merging, and the culture inside this new company was, let's just say, a little unconventional. Musk and the other founder, Max Levchin, got into this huge fight over which software to use. So how did 2 brilliant tech founders settle a critical technical dispute?
You guessed it, with an arm wrestling match, right there in the office. Musk, being a lot bigger, won pretty easily. But surprise, surprise, it didn't actually solve the problem. The tension between the 2 halves of the company just kept on building.
And eventually, that tension hit a breaking point. Musk was dead set on rebranding everything as X.com, completely ignoring how popular the PayPal name had become. The team also felt like he wasn't taking the massive problem of online fraud seriously enough. So, while Musk was on a long overdue honeymoon, they've staged a coup. They went to the board, convinced them to fire him, and put Peter Thiel in charge as CEO. For the second time in his career, he was kicked out of his own company.
But getting forced out came with a pretty nice consolation prize. When eBay bought PayPal a couple of years later, Musk, as the biggest shareholder, was about to become fantastically rich. We're talking a payout of about $250 million.
So what would you do with that kind of money, right? Buy an island? A bunch of sports cars? Well, Musk had a slightly different answer.
For years, he'd had this idea that 3 things would have the biggest impact on the future of humanity. He felt like he'd already done his part with number 1, the internet. So that left sustainable energy and space exploration. And with $250 million burning a hole in his pocket, he decided to pour his entire fortune into tackling both at the same time. His first plan was wild. It was called Mars Oasis. And the idea was to send a tiny greenhouse to Mars, just to get people excited about space again. To do it, he literally flew to Russia to try and buy some cheap, second-hand ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles. The Russians pretty much just laughed him out of the room. They thought he was some crazy guy with no money. But on the flight home from Moscow, he had this breakthrough. He pulls out a spreadsheet and starts calculating how much the raw materials for rocket actually cost. And he realizes the price of a finished rocket was at least 50 times higher. He called this his idiot index. It became his guiding principle. If the raw materials are cheap but the final product is crazy expensive, it means the way it's being made is broken and just begging to be disrupted. He decided he was just going to build the rockets himself. And that brings us all the way back to our big question. Musk's methods are often brutal. His deadlines are impossible. His personality can be incredibly abrasive. But when you trace that relentless, unstoppable drive, that ridiculously high pain threshold, and that appetite for insane risk, it all leads back to that boy in South Africa. So it really makes you wonder, is that kind of extreme psychological crucible, is that fire a necessary ingredient for forging someone crazy enough to actually change the world?